a lot of people don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
They'll tell me, I can't believe you have such a political job. I do not have a political job.
Right, you can't.
No. I do elections, which are law.
Boy.
I say that elections are black and white, plain. Politics are messy and emotional.
We're joined by Miss Trudy Hancock from Brazos County, and your title officially is
Elections Administrator, yes.
Got it. And how long have you been doing that?
For Brazos County since 2016.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And before that, you were somewhere else?
I was in Robertson County for almost 12 years.
Oh, wow. Okay. Got it. And do you live in, I'm just curious, do you live in the county now? Or
No,
are
I
you
do
still?
not.
Okay. So, well, that's great. So you've got a lot of experience on elections. So, the first, let me grab my handy dandy notes here. But I was curious just a little bit about your background, how you fell into doing elections. It's a pretty specific kind of a job. So
It really is. You don't think that most people think, oh, when I go to career day, I want to be an elections administrator.
Right.
No, I started out as an election worker.
Oh, okay.
For Robertson County, for years, I was an election worker at one of the polls in the community where I live. And then an opening came up in the county clerk's office, and she offered me the job.
Okay.
And so I went to work in the county clerk's office doing elections, and then left there after several years and went to a law firm. And then when the county created the elections administrator position, I was offered that position.
Okay.
So,
When, and this is for Robertson?
yes.
And then later it was Brazos?
Yes.
Okay. So before that time, there wasn't an administrator in Robertson then?
No. And just like in Brazos County, the county clerk handled elections, and the tax office handled voter registration. And we still have quite a few counties that still do it that way. But with the elections administrator, everything has moved to one office. So it's kind of a one-stop shop for anything elections.
Got
So
it.
you don't, voter registration, you don't have to go one place, and election questions, you go somewhere else. So
Is the last day to register, have we already passed that?
we have not. It's 30 days from the election.
Okay.
I think it's October 4th.
October 4th. So we're November 4th this year, or is that the election?
Yeah.
Okay. I should have looked that up beforehand. But okay, so October 4th is the last day to register if you're not registered to vote.
Correct.
Got it.
Or make any changes. Like if you've moved within your county,
Oh, yeah.
or need to update your name to match your driver's license,
Right.
any of those things. It's the 30-day deadline.
Not to put you on the spot, we can give a round number if you want, but I'm curious, how many registered voters do we have in Brazos County?
We fluctuate anywhere from 124,000 to 126,000. Just with the influx and outgoing in and outs of the students.
Students, yeah.
And as you know, if you drive around, the growth here is
Right.
astronomical.
Right.
Yes, and so we have a lot of new families moving in. So
Okay. So you mentioned that you started out as an elections worker, I think is what you said. Are those positions, like I see a lot of them, especially retirees and those types of folks working at the polls, is that what you were referring to, how you started, or is that something different?
no, that is how I started.
Okay.
But at that time, I wasn't old enough to be a retiree.
I wasn't saying you're...
But I would take a day of vacation from my full-time job.
Okay.
And serve at that capacity.
Got it. Is it, so is it a volunteer kind of position, or is it paid?
It is, well, no more than they get paid. It might as well be a volunteer
Oh, okay.
position. Election workers are paid $12 an hour. If you work election day, it's a really long day. It's usually about a 14-hour day. So
Wow,
from
okay.
they have to be there in time to set everything up and be ready to go at 7 o'clock, and they don't close until 7. And if you're in line at 7, you get to vote. So
Wow.
they don't get to vote. They don't get to leave or close the polls until the last person's
So
out.
it's long day, 12 hours, or $12 an hour, but at least you're paid something. I was
Correct.
thinking that you were actually volunteers, and so it was a long day for no pay at all.
Right.
But
And we do have a few people who volunteer their time just out of civic duty. And so on their timesheet, they just enter no pay.
Okay.
So we do have a few of those.
Are y'all in Brazos County, are you typically pretty really needing more poll workers, or do you tend to have all you need?
Oh, no, we don't have
Okay.
all we need. It takes us about 200 people to
Okay.
pull off an
Wow. Wow.
election. Yes, you have, besides, you have early voting workers that work the full 2 weeks of early voting,
Okay.
have election day workers. Then we also have like the early voting ballot board that qualifies the ballots by mail.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll have central count workers who, on election night, they're there to take in all the boxes, and our IT department does the tabulation then of those votes that come in.
Oh, wow.
So it is quite a undertaking.
Yeah. So that's what they're talking about then when you hear, say, the county commissioner's court talking about an election as being, kind of an expense, a pretty expensive thing to do. Yes. I guess the if you will, person hours that it takes to pull this off is pretty significant then.
Right.
Wow.
Then you have the equipment costs, ballot costs,
Yeah.
all the supplies. So it is quite an expensive venture.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's interesting. I'm learning a lot here today. Let's switch to specifically the election in November.
Okay.
I think you said November 4th, possibly. I think you had just said it, and it's early November.
Yes, first Tuesday.
Got it. First Tuesday in November. I've glanced at or spoken to you about what is on the ballot, but can you go over just briefly, what races are on the ballot for this year?
Right. So this is our off year. We call it an off year because there are not a lot of races on the ballot.
Right.
This is our year to do constitutional amendments.
Okay.
I've been advised by the state that we will have 14 constitutional amendments on our ballot this year. And then both of our cities are on the even number years. So City of Bryan and City of College Station will not be on our ballot this year.
Okay.
But Bryan ISD and College Station ISD both will be. I know Bryan has a couple of trustee places, and then College Station ISD has has a couple of trustee places, and they're having a bond.
Okay, so that's what's different between the two cities. So I'll have to look into what specifically is on that bond. But okay, so that would be called an off year, but there are still important positions that are up for decision.
Oh, correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, obviously the school bond is related to, a lot of people are interested in property taxes and what's going on with all that. And so
Right.
it sounds like something that would, impact things in the future as far as housing and that kind of thing. But I don't know where I was going with that, but it's good to know that there are things on the ballot, and we definitely encourage everybody to come out and vote, register if you're not
Yes.
registered. This is another thing I should have looked at before speaking to you today, but it sounded like what you're saying is that there are 14 constitutional amendments from the state, but that maybe we don't even know what all of these are? Or
We do not. We have not
Wow.
received any language yet.
Is that normal?
Yes.
Okay.
Ballot certification won't come out until right at the end of August.
Okay.
They have until then. I think also they're making sure that we don't have any more special sessions before they, because if they do, then it would have to go on this ballot, or if it doesn't make it in time, then we would have to have a special election in May.
Got it. Okay.
So.
So we would find out for sure about that around the same time we would find out for sure who's running for the Bryan and College Station ISD school boards.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay.
So we should have ballot language, and we'll start our ballot by the 1st of September.
1st of September. And what is the absolute last day people have to decide and to decide to run for these local ISD races?
I knew you would ask me a hard question I
sorry.
didn't think about.
And I might not have.
Their filing period is already going on.
Oh,
It's a 30-day filing window, and I think their deadline is coming up pretty quick
Okay.
for final day to be on the
I want
ballot.
to say I saw and we can put it in the show notes as well, but I want to say it was around the 20th from what I saw.
I think so.
We'll put
but
it in there.
Right, yeah.
I know that my wife does some of the editing along with Mario. Shout out to him. And they do a really good job of sticking that in there when I screw up. So that's very
Covering us.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. Let's see here. Another thing I kind of covered already, but wanted to go a little bit more in depth on the issue of poll workers. You said that you're always in need of them. What does it take to become a poll worker?
There are a few qualifications
Okay.
for a poll worker. Not a whole lot. You have to be qualified to register to vote.
Okay.
That doesn't mean you have to be registered. You just have to meet the qualifications. You have to be a U.S. citizen,
Right.
18 years of age, things
Okay.
like that. And then we use our parties are really good. The Democratic
Okay.
Republican Party are really good at utilizing their base. They work more on a granular level than we do at the county, and so they help us a lot in trying to facilitate
Okay.
worker drives and things. So we
Got
tell
it.
anyone that's interested, contact the party of your preference
I see.
to get on the list. So we do get our list of workers from the parties.
Got it. Okay, and that was kind of going to be my next question after that is a little more of how y'all work with the parties. But going from there, so it sounds like not a volunteer, someone who wants to be a poll worker
Correct.
should contact their party of preference, and then is there kind of a wait list at that point, or does it kind of work itself out and you just get the workers?
It kind of works itself
Okay.
out, as you know, especially with the median age of our workers being 70 to,
Wow.
we have some workers that are 86.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay.
And they're amazing. They have a wealth of knowledge. They've worked a really long time. But sometimes at the last minute, there's a sickness or something like that. So even if we go into it with an abundance of workers, we end up having, most of the time, using nearly all of our pool to staff everything.
Got it.
And then sometimes you end up with a place that you didn't think was going to be as busy as it is. And so sometimes we may have to deploy more workers to a
Okay.
specific place just to try to keep everything moving and everyone not having to wait as long.
And that brings up a good point. Is there's a lot of logistics going into your
Yes.
job,
Yes.
and are you doing this kind of in real time, especially on election day, where it's like, oh no, this location is way busier than we thought it was, and sending people over there at 10 o'clock or things
We
like
are.
that?
We
Wow.
are. Or if at 5:30 in the morning we get a call that says, I'm sick, I can't come in today. I woke up with a stomach virus or whatever. COVID was really hard to manage through, but we have a phenomenal base in this county. But they also have to have assistance.
Yeah.
We have to remember that sometimes you walk in and if a place isn't busy, it's like, why don't they have all these workers?
Right.
But you never know when you're going to get slammed. You never know when you're going to have a curbside, and some of your workers have to go outside to do that. So we have to be sure that we have adequate staff for whatever may happen. So I say that I'm pretty much our fire marshal. So I put out all the fires. So.
That's really funny. Going along with those lines, is there anything coming from the state? I think it would be the state. I know a few years ago, maybe even last election, I think it was the state switched up some election, like there were new election machines, things like that. Are there any big changes like that for this year, or have we gotten through the new machines and the new stuff?
A lot of our stuff triggers from legislation. So in 21, there was a whirlwind of changes and modifications to the election code. And because some of those were in the late sessions, it gave us a very little window to implement those, because most of them, their date to begin is September 1st.
Oh, wow.
And so that really puts us in a time crunch when you don't finish a legislative session until the end of August, and the law's going to affect September 1st, so that means that you have to implement them for November. And so there were pretty wide sweeping changes, so that meant having to redo a lot of things for our ballot by mail folks, along with the paper shortage. So it was
wow.
Yes. So after the state was able to get all the things that are required to be changed, and then for us to get those reprinted.
Yeah. Wow. So, one other question I just thought of is, I know for us, Habitat as a nonprofit, when we talk about political related issues, we have to be very careful and not biased. I would imagine the elections administrator, as well as any staff, y'all must have a lot of, I guess, policies or things like that to make sure that you're not accidentally seeming to prefer one party over the other when you're running an election.
Correct. We're Switzerland.
Yeah.
We just, we treat everyone the same. Democrat, Republican, Baptist, Catholic, it doesn't matter.
Right.
And that's one thing I really preach to my staff. I have an amazing staff who I've never had any of that issue with. But yes, it's hard, especially if you want to be politically active.
Right.
To be in a position in my office.
Yeah.
So most people coming in know that they have to stay neutral, and you really, have to walk that line, because we do want anyone who comes in to feel. And sometimes if I have a staff member who maybe went to a rally or something, and someone who is either pro or against comes in, they immediately feel like maybe they don't get the best answer, or that get treated the way that they should. So we want everyone who we have to interact with to feel like they've come away getting exactly what they needed.
Okay, so it is quite a bit like Habitat for Humanity.
Yes.
And, that's interesting, and but it has its benefits too, because you can talk to anybody.
Correct.
And that's great.
And that's a lot of people don't understand. They'll tell me, "I can't believe you have such a political job." I do not have a political job.
You can't.
No. I do elections, which are law, and that's very black and white.
Right.
So
that's a good point.
I say that elections are black and white, plain. Politics are messy and emotional. Exactly. So we stay out of that.
You get to see all of that.
Yes.
Another probably last question that popped up just now that I hadn't thought about before is, I know there's been a lot of talk in the news and social media about how there's something going on in the I guess you could say the country, the community these days, where you hear a lot more airlines, for example, of people maybe acting like they shouldn't, related to any industry. So airlines, you hear a lot about it, people getting kicked out of airlines, just generally behavior getting different or worse. I don't want to throw any Brazos County citizens under the bus or anything, but I was just curious. Are you seeing more of like things going on in the polling places, or is everything going pretty calmly and that kind of thing?
For the most part, here in Brazos County, it has been. We haven't had any problems. There's always people who don't understand processes or understand why we have to have certain things that may get upset or maybe a little loud.
Sure.
But no, we haven't had any problems here in our county. I do know that across the state and across the country, there have been some very bad threats, even some trying to take action on some of those threats. So especially going into 24, as big as it's going to be and as massive as that election's going to be, we're trying to find ways to mitigate any problems that we may have.
Okay,
so.
Got it. Okay. Well, I do want to highlight one more time that, if somebody wants to look into becoming a poll worker, to make sure that you speak to your party headquarters of choice.
Correct.
So that would be the Brazos County Democrats, Brazos County Republicans.
Correct.
And that's how you get started. And hopefully some people watching this, maybe they'll come help you out.
Hopefully.
Is there anything else that you wanted to add?
No. Going into 24, so filing period for 24 for the primary and the general will start the Saturday after the November election.
Wow.
So we'll be working right into the primary. We have the 272nd district judge, district attorney, county attorney, sheriff, commissioners 1 and 3, and then the unexpired term for the tax assessor will be the local items that we'll have up for next year. So next year we'll be very busy.
Okay, perfect. Well, Trudy, I really appreciate you coming
Sure.
on the Think Brazos podcast today,
Sure.
and we'll definitely be in touch about the selection. And good luck.
Good. I'm happy to come back.
All right, great.